Hi friends, today in this lecture we are going to review the sexual disorder. So when we look at sexual disorder, the disorder are going to be based on the different part of your sexual cycle. First part of sexual cycle is to say what you do this desire mean you have fantastic about sex and you want to have sex. This is called desire. The male hypoactive sexual disorder is a man who has a definition about a fantastic or desire. Now usually this disorder appears in nature or it called biological in nature. So if you are having stress in your marriage, then that will a physical component that will cause you to have this problem, or maybe you have long stone and that will be of physical issue and tend to see a lot of disease after surgery. Especially for prostate cancer. Next, let's review the sexual around the shoulder. So what does the around means? This second part of the sexual cycle and arousal in the physical component to sexual excitation. So for female, it's lubrication and male is arousal. Woman can have what called the female sexual interest around the shoulder. These are a woman who are unable to touch and vagina. Lubrication now could be hormonal or it could be the RPS X01. In the first years of our life, we discover the word through our oral sense. Our main pleasure comes from sucking our mother breasts or a bottle. The conflict that occurs now is the weaning from our primary hand is of his mother breasts with trauma. Mother stopped feeding him without 4 months of birth, which too early. Ida is often left alone crying when she is hungry, hence become a little and independent adult, and suffers for trauma and oral fixation. He tries to compensate for it by gum all the time. So you are thinking biological sex can be linked back to gains, right? Well, this get even more complicated than that. Some gains get experienced at high level and others at low level. So a person may have gains that express a high level testosterone and little or estrogen or progesterone. Or five biological sex excite on a spectrum. The bottom line is that biology is messy and I like most things biology sex excited and spectrum. The biology construction sex is gender identity and gender expression. Gender is a person on stage of the gender and gender expression is how they present themselves to the world. Now binary gender. Many people identification as either man or woman, but there are also various types of non-binary gender or gender identification that lie outside of the man-woman. For example, some call as multigender such a native or indigenous to sprite to Furthermore, Samuel identified with a gender that need from their sex assignment at birth. Meanwhile, there are people who don't feel any of these labels describe them or don't like the idea of identifying with a specific gender at all. Pronoun now, depending on their gender identification, any person can choose the pronoun that suits them the best. Often a person can choose the pronoun they, them, their, which are more gender neutral, and you can use this pronoun when talking about someone whose gender you don't know. For instance, you might say, "This patient name is Sam. They have diabetes and they here for a follow-up on their own medication." Sexuality is the capacity of humans to have experience and respond. A person's sexual orientation can influence their sexual intent and attraction for another person. Sexuality may be experienced and expressed in a variety of ways: fantastic, belief, attitude, value, behavior, pretense, role, relationship. They may manifest themselves in biology, psychology, emotional, social, or spiritual aspects, which spiritual concern an individual's spiritual connection with others. Sexual also impact upon by cultural, political, legal, psychological, moral, ethical, religious aspect of life. Evolutionary strategy and social learning theory provide future view of sexual, social, cultural aspect, religion, belief. Example include Jewish view on the sexual pleasure. Some culture have been described as sexuality responsive. Is the total of thought and feeling sexual is more about who we are than about what we do. Dimension of human sexuality and our biology, social, cultural factor, biology, dimension, our gender, genetic, and respond, and also psychology, health, cycle, ethics, media, influencer, our gender, genetic, reproduction, fertility, control, sexual arousal, and response. Sexual orientation: 1. Erotic, romantic, and actional. Heterosexual: 2. Be open sex, attraction to the same sex, to the both. Asexual, non-sexual. Orientation formed by complete network of factors: social, cultural, biological, economic, political, sexual identity, sense of oneself as a being. Opinion differ on original of individual sexual. Sexual is determined by genetics. Some belief is molded by environment and other that both of the change factor. The nature versus nature debate in the former on assumption that the future of a person comparison to their nature future later refers to the assumption that the future, their development and nutrition. Example by ego idea and formative identification in research years. Healthcare centers have started to understand the importance of incorporating sexual orientation and gender identity or SOGI in their medical record. Sexual orientation and gender identification. Healthcare system collect and report sexual from the patient. Sexual orientation refers to who you are sexually and romantically attracted, while gender identity is about how you identify yourself, and the sex is about biology. It's also important to ask someone which pronoun to use when referring to them. Collect this data is essential to show respect to patients and their family, but also to understand the different individuals with a particular sex or gender identification can have. Sexual disorder can be classification, gender identification disorder, physical and behavior disorder with sexual development and malnutrition, disorder of sexual dysfunction. Let's this disorder in detail. The is a gender identification. Here the main gender identification disorder are transsexualism. Transsexualism mean here the person with to adopt the sex characteristic of the opposite sex, which mean the person who like to become to opposite sex. If man, he would like to become a female, that is transsexual. Dual ronde, which mean here the person wish to wear the clothes of the opposite sex and to enjoy temporary membership of opposite sex group, but do not want like a female would like the person sex with female, male will like product sex with a male, female. Disorder of sexual preference. This is important because these terms may be asked for multi-choice question. This is important to understand the meaning of the terms or the concept of this term. Sexual preference or preference means they would like product sex with